And we are live, and it's Tuesday morning, and today is the 10th of September, and it's just about 20 past 9 in the morning. And basically, I've just decided to give some feedback after the meeting that we've had this morning, which was all about two very interesting scriptures in the Bible. So we're going to be exploring these two seemingly conflicting scriptures that are often used to define the sexual dynamics within a Christian or a Jesus-centered marriage. The first scripture is from 1 Corinthians 7, verse 5, which is frequently cited. It says, "Do not deprive each other, except perhaps by mutual consent, and for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again, so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control." Many interpret this to mean that wives should ensure that their husbands have regular sexual access to prevent temptation. It's a very interesting thought. The other scripture that I've got to sort of share with you all is Matthew 5, verse 28, which says, "But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart." So this scripture brings obviously a completely different opposing perspective. This perspective, I think, challenges the idea that a woman's role in marriage is to be a safeguard against her husband's lustful behavior or sin. So guys, today I'd like to take a little bit of a closer look at the adultery scripture. And basically, the idea is to contest that a wife's primary role in a marriage is to provide sexual intimacy to prevent her husband's consumption of porn. And I'd like to look at three different areas. The first one is the responsibility of sin lies with each and every single individual. So the responsibility of sin lies with each and every single individual. The second one is authentic intimacy. True intimacy is not transactional. Okay, so if I'm being somebody, there's no transaction. It's not based on I give you this, you give me that. And then healthy marriages are built on mutual respect and emotional connection. So the responsibility of sin lies with each and every single individual. So the heart of the matter is this accountability. I think it's this one word, accountability. And when Jesus speaks in Matthew 5:28, I think he makes it clear that sin is a matter of the heart. If a man looks at a woman with lust, he has already committed adultery in his heart. The responsibility here, guys, is firmly placed on the individual and not on someone else to control or prevent it. The problem is not a lack of sex from a spouse, the lack of self-control and the lack of a heart that is dedicated to God and growth and integrity and who it is that I'm supposed to be. To suggest that the wife is responsible for preventing a husband's sin by providing sex turns the scripture upside down, in my opinion. I think it shifts the responsibility from the man who's called to guard his eyes and his heart to his wife or the woman who is somehow expected to fix a spiritual issue that the husband has with a physical solution. This is not only a complete misapplication, as far as I'm concerned, of scripture, but also an unfair and harmful expectation and a terrible burden to be placed on a wife or a woman or a lady for that matter. So, the second point thing that I scribbled down here very quickly was authentic intimacy is not transactional. So if you were to consider the nature of intimacy within marriage, 1 Corinthians 7 verse 5 is often used to pressure wives into having sex to keep their husbands from straying. But I think when we take the whole counsel of the Bible, we see that authentic intimacy is never meant to be a transaction or an obligation. So Ephesians 5:25 Husbands are called to love their wives as Christ loved the church. We had that mentioned in the meeting this morning as well with the ladies. Men are called to love their husbands or their wives. Men are called to love their wives as Christ loved the church. And that is a sacrificial love. That's a tender love. And it's a love that is without demand. True intimacy, therefore, flows from a mutual love, a mutual respect, a space of emotional safety. And porn does not provide a space of emotional safety, not out of fear or manipulation. And we had a lot of ladies this morning saying, if you're giving sex to your husband because you're afraid that not doing so would push him further into porn, then what is the motivation? What's the foundation of that approach? Is it fear? Is it control? Is it manipulation? What is the foundation of that specific space? So when sex becomes a duty or a desperate attempt to keep a man away from pornography, it absolutely loses its sacredness and the intimate connection that God intended for there to be in that space. It becomes a hollow act that may only lead to resentment, frustration, and a deeper sense of disconnection. The lady shared this morning, if they have um, had sexual contact with their husbands because they love them and they want to have the attention and the focus and the care and the concern of their husbands, but they know that their husbands are busy with porn. Then the following day, they walk around questioning themselves, why did I do this? Why did I devalue myself to that extent? There's a horrible after effect that comes to play in many relationships like this. Our third point is basically healthy marriages are built on mutual respect and emotional connection. So, what is it that builds a healthy marriage? It's not about controlling another person's behavior. Absolutely not. It's not about using sex or fear to control. It's about cultivating a very deep emotional and spiritual connection. This is not easy, guys. This is something that every honest man will fight and battle with every single day of his life. When we look at the life and the ministry of Jesus, we see that his focus was always on the heart. I believe that Jesus infiltrated the hearts of men to change the hearts of men and to direct their paths or their disciplines from the inside out. And I think healthy marriages are founded on mutual respect, on open communication, and a shared commitment to God's design for relationship and purity. So when a wife feels pressure to have sex to prevent a husband from using porn, the marriage dynamic becomes one of fear and control rather than love and freedom and acceptance and grace and understanding and insight and support and love and care, and the list goes on. Instead, husbands are called to deal with their lust issues at their root through prayer, absolutely by devoting themselves to God, accountability, and possibly even counseling or speaking to someone else about the issues that they can't speak to anyone else about. So the answer to the problem is not more sex. I always tell the ladies, nothing that you could have done more or less of could have prevented your husband from doing what he did. Um, so the answer is not more sex, but more spiritual maturity, more accountability, more character, more growth, more integrity, more introspection, and to be a grace-based person. So, what are we saying? In conclusion, I think while 1 Corinthians 7, verse 5 reminds couples not to withhold intimacy, it must be understood in the full context of mutual love and respect. I do believe that Matthew 5 speaks about the responsibility of lust and adultery that sits squarely on each individual. I believe that it's vital to recognize that healthy, God honoring marriages are built on more than a wife's perceived obligation to provide sex. And I think that they are both built on a deep emotional connection, huge amounts of respect, and shared spiritual growth. So please, let's move away from the damaging narrative that a wife's role is to prevent a husband's sin by sacrificing our own sense of safety and self-worth and well-being. Instead, let's encourage each other to pursue real and raw and relevant emotional intimacy, a kind that isn't based on fear or control, but on a mutual desire to honor God, to serve one another, and absolutely eventually growing together. So thanks for listening to me today. If you would like to speak to me about what I've shared here and my views, I think everybody's entitled to their views, and this is my firm conviction. Um, then please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My my number is on the banner of my Facebook page, or just pop me a direct message. And I hope that by listening to this, that you'll be able to realign your understanding with the truth of Scripture, and that we can foster marriages that reflect the heart of God in our own hearts, where both husband and wife are absolutely cherished, respected, and deeply connected, not just physically, but emotionally and definitely spiritually as well. Thanks for listening to me. I hope you have a fantastic day further. We'll connect again soon.